Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session by Leverage Live, powered by Leverage Edu. My name is Kritika Krishna, and I welcome you all to this session on how to pass the IELTS test in January in 2023. So before we proceed, I would just like to get a go ahead from you guys if you are able to hear my voice loud and clear. Please type a yes on the chat option here so that we can proceed. Let me know if my voice is reaching you guys loud and clear. Am I audible? All right, perfect. Thank you, Hirsch. All right. So we'll dive deeper into the session with certain important pieces of information that we need to crack this exam with highest possible score. But before we proceed, may I know from you guys if you have already taken the exam? Do you have an experience of having taken the test before? Type a yes or a no. Let me know in the chat, please. Have you taken IELTS before? No. Okay. How many of you have already registered for the test? Maybe next 15 days or maybe a month or 2 months. Those of you who have chosen the test date. Is there anyone? Let's see. Type a yes or a no. If you haven't made any plans yet, it's all right. Let me know through the chat box, please. Yes, when is it, Raksha? If you have decided the exam date or have if you have booked, let me know the exam date as well. After a month. Okay. All right, perfect. So it's 2023. First of all, wishing you all a happy new year. I know you all have plans to either go for your higher education or planning to migrate to an English speaking country. So, my best wishes to all of you. Raksha has exam on the 18th, just 4 more days to go. And 21st is your LRW. All right, so you're at the right spot. I'm sure that what I'm going to share today will help you to, tackle certain uh, particular portions of the test where you'll get help. All right. Thank you for letting me know, Raksha. Okay, so we know that it is essential for us to take this exam for the plan that we have, whether we are going for higher education or we are going for immigration. Now, IELTS, if I talk about, is a test where your English language is being assessed. Having said that, it's not a case that if I am just a good user of English, I'll be able to get a high score also. So it's not just the command that you have over English language, it's also certain skills, certain techniques that you must possess in order to reach that high band score. Now, if you're applying for any university, let's say, a decent score that we require to enter any university in an English speaking country is out of 9, a band 6.5 as an average. If you're applying for work visa or for immigration, the score may vary. For general IELTS, for instance, you might need an 8777 for Canadian PR, for instance. So the first point, diving deeper into the session now, the first thing that you all need to be aware of is knowing your score requirement. Now, to enter a university, if this is the score that you need, which could be a 6.5 minimum, in certain cases, depending upon the courses and the university or the country that you've chosen, it could even be a 7 each. Know this requirement so that you can make your preparation plan accordingly. How many, I would like to know, are applying for academic IELTS? Just type an AT if you're trying for academic. AT for academic. If going for general, you can type GT. Raksha is applying for academic, Inderjeet academic, Swarnika, Hirsch. All right. Perfect. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. I'll give you some inputs based on the module that you're taking. Although, to start off, academic IELTS and general IELTS, the test pattern is almost the same. Listening and speaking skills, they'll be the same. It's just that in reading and writing, certain components would be different because you're taking examination for a different purpose. So, coming back to the first point, know your score requirement because your prep plan is going to be in accordance to that. So if your command over English language is of, being a competent user, you may end up getting a score which may be just touching a six band. But let me tell you, that may not help us because we need an average which has to be a 6.5. So what do we have to do? If we know that this is my command and I need to reach, let's say, one band up or two bands up, I need to accordingly pull up my socks and work on that. So, yes, all of you, wherever you're applying, get to know the details. Do I need a 6 each with an average 6.5? Do I need a 7 each? What is that? And accordingly, we are going to work on it. Now, step two, after having known your requirement, you should now start knowing more about the test. Of course, if I guess Raksha is already taking the test, so she may already be a bit aware of what is there in the test, and you might also have started your practice. Rest of you who haven't, the first thing is that you know about the test format. It's not going to be just like any English test that you're taking. So every examination for that matter is going to have a typical format. Knowing that is essential. Why? Because when we go for the examination, we should not have any kind of surprise elements. Oh my God, had I known this, I would have practiced it before. So let's not get into that zone. So know that there are going to be four skills, which are listening, reading, writing, speaking. Know the type of questions that you're going to get. And when you're knowing the type of questions, it's also important to know how to solve them. So, format, why do we need to know? So that when we are taking the test, we don't end up feeling that I was not aware that this could also come. So when we say when you're prepared, this is the preparation process. Knowing the format, knowing the type of questions, what are the do's and don'ts, and then following those do's and don'ts with a kind of good practice. But let's say now I know my score requirement, I know what will come in the examination. How do I ensure that, all right, I'll take the test and I'll crack it, with a high band score? Now, there comes your practice. But I'd say that just doing practice is not essential. You need to first be aware of the correct strategies. It's an exam. We know that you take any exam, you would have certain type of nuances in that exam. Same is the case with IELTS. There's no difference in it. You need to ensure that you are aware for each type of skill, the type of questions you're going to encounter, what are certain techniques that you need to adopt. So let's know some of the strategies that you can apply to each of the skills that we have in the exam. So we have listening, reading, writing, speaking. Let's start off with listening. Now, in this particular skill type, you are um, given certain questions, which will be total 40 in number. And through these questions, I mean, you need to, it's a listening test. So you're going to listen to different tracks and you need to answer those questions. So maybe we are good at our listening skill. I'm sure you all must be watching a lot of movies and shows. Do you? All of you, how many watch English programs and shows? Type a yes if you do. Type a yes if you do. Do you watch English programs and shows? Hirsch does. Rest of the participants? Do we not? All right, I'm getting a couple of people responding yes to the question. So, see, understanding native speakers may not be a new task for you. You all have been familiar with it. But in your listening test, you're doing not just listening, you're reading questions and you're also writing. You're responding to those questions. So, there's a bit of multitasking that comes into picture. So, that's where the challenge would be. We need to maintain not just our speed of comprehending the speaker who's talking, of reading the question, and also the speed of responding to the question. So there comes a challenge of speed. All the recordings that you listen to, they'll be played only once. We don't have any control. So that brings us to a challenge, that how do I cope with it if I have not read the question properly? How do I cope with it if I get stuck anywhere? Those kind of challenges would come. And if these are not the challenges, then the main challenge would be that the way you are responding to the question, the format goes wrong. So first I would like to cater to the challenge of speed. In the recorded recordings that you're going to listen to in the listening test, you would have a lot of gap time. Now, what is this gap time I'm talking about? The gap time is nothing but the time given to you to read the questions and instruction. We'll have four parts to the test, where from the first part to the fourth part, you're going to listen to four different recordings. And each could be one, a conversation, then there could be a speech on a social context, and the third and the fourth part, they are going to be a bit complex because you will have more professional and academic context being given to you. So here you would notice this thing, that as you move from one part to the last, you would find the content in terms of the reading information that you've got, the text, it goes longer. And within the test, you, along with the track, you're given in between dead air, which is the gap time for you to read the questions and instruction. And you're also given a little bit amount of time to check your answers. This is what we call as gap time. When the speaker in the recording says that now you have some time to check your answers, or now you have time to look at question, let's say 5 to 10, 11 to 14, so on and so forth. So please ensure that this gap time is wisely used. Keep this in mind. This gap time should not be utilized in going back. Now what happens is, if you have 10 questions in a particular section, there is a chance that there's a possibility you get everything, you miss one of them. And most of the time in the gap time, people try to recall what they heard. So my suggestion to you would be, don't do that. Always move on, go forward, don't go back, and the gap time will come to your rescue. Use this gap time in reading the upcoming part. In fact, as you progress, I mentioned that the text length will go longer. It can be a challenge for you to maintain your speed in reading the information you've got. And if you don't read that, you will not be able to multitask properly. That is, when the track is played and when you'll have to respond to the question. Why? Because we had only partial understanding of the information that we read. So, what's this important technique? Making use of the gap time. I hope you all will follow that whenever you do your further practice, all of you. Type a yes if you will. Have we understood this? Following gap time, using the gap time in reading the next part, the upcoming part, rather than going back to the part that is already over. And don't worry if you miss one or two questions. Let me tell you, even if you get 39 out of 40, you reach band 9. So let's not fret over one question that we miss, or two for that matter. So always proceed to the next part. And yes, pay heed to the instruction, because a lot of silly mistakes tend to happen. So this is catering to the speed issue. Then comes accuracy. Accuracy errors normally happen when you're not paying attention to instruction, everybody. So the instructions normally for any kind of gap filling question that you may get, like short answer question, complete notes, summary, sentence completion, something like that, if you get, it might say one word only, no more than two words, and sometimes the instruction can be one word and or a number. So do not ignore them, because that tells you what is the format in which you are supposed to write your answer. So if your answer is, let's say, if your answer is two directions, anywhere your answer is two directions, and the question instruction is one word and or a number, one word and or a number, how would you write it? Can you all put it in the chat box for me? Two directions, one word and or a number. Let me see. How are you going to fill your answer? Two directions. Let's check. I repeat, my answer in one of the blanks is two directions, and my instruction is one word and or a number. How am I going to write it? Why would I write southeast in the Jeet? This is another mistake. We write what we listen to. We don't write anything of our own. We are not going to create an answer. We're going to extract that word, what we heard, and we are going to put that. So I got a couple of answers. One, Indrajit, you've written southeast. Raksha, you've written two directions. Harsh, you've written two direction. Unfortunately, all the answers are wrong. All the answers are wrong. Why? Now, Raksha, your mistake is you've written two directions, which is not fulfilling the word limit, which is one word and or a number. You've written TWO, which is a word. Directions is also a word. So not acceptable. Harsh, you have written two direction and my answer is in plural, two directions. Again, incorrect. Sarvesh, you end up writing the correct answer, which is number two and then directions. That's the correct answer. Very good. So these are the kind of silly mistakes we make, and we lose not just one but a couple of points in the test. So place where you can get between 7 and 9, you end up getting reaching a 6, 6.5. So these are the things that you need to pay attention to. One, speed. Second, accuracy. And in accuracy, ensure you are paying attention to the instruction. Are we able to follow you guys? Type a yes if you are able to understand. Let me know, give me a go ahead if we are clear with this part. Perfect, perfect. So now whatever I have discussed with you with regard